Welcome to What's in Your Data?
Brought to you by Melissa. Howdy, my name is Daniel Lee, and I'm the Chief Data Wrangler at Melissa.
Hi, my name is Anna Chong, and I'm a software engineer team lead here at Melissa.
All right.
We have a special guest.
Special interview with a special guest.
Yes.
We'll let him introduce himself. But he's been with Melissa since 2009.
Wow.
Yeah, actually, so technically he came through to us through a series of acquisitions. It feels like he's an original OG Melissa person anyway.
I always thought he was.
Yeah.
I had no idea that.
No, he has a long storied career, but with us he started since 2009, and he has a degree in math and organizational psych apparently, but he uses all these for good. Yes.
With great power comes
great responsibility.
Yes.
But the math background definitely is shaping and helping him with what he's working on.
Okay.
And we'll hear a lot more about it.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear.
Yeah, well, with further ado, hey, you there. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Philip Ljubicich. I'm Director of Research and Development for our Seattle office for Melissa Data. And like Daniel was saying, I've been here since 2009. I guess it's 17 years now. Heaven help me. Been here a long time and had a chance to do a lot of fun stuff here. Really appreciated my time here.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, Philip, maybe your background.
Sure. Came to Melissa through, again, a series of acquisitions, part of a startup that I founded with a couple of friends, which was a whole range of stories around that, but probably not the focus of this video. Did a little bit of operating systems work at Microsoft before, started on that whole train. Enjoy working on the tech here. Started off on some infrastructure projects, some cluster-based computing and some other components that help build out the infrastructure. And then for more than a decade, I've been working on global addresses, been trying to build our infrastructure, improve the quality of our data and processes, and build out better and better ability to verify global addresses.
Hey, Philip, you mentioned a startup. So you have over a decade worth of experience working with global addresses. You said operating systems, but a startup, was that tech related?
Yeah, it was. We were trying to build the world's largest database of event information. So
of revenge information?
Oh, no. That's it was event information, local book signings at the bookstores and things like that. No, we were not like in the whole dark vengeance thing. It was all about, where can you do that's fun and interesting around your city? So we built up a database of hundreds of thousands of local events, kept them current every week, and sold them into services that wanted to have local events on their websites.
Wow, well, that sounds like a lot of data.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we know a thing or two about data.
It's where I got my start in data, having to process those pipelines, keep data that would go out of date fresh, and gather and process data from a lot of different sources. I mean, I think it's, the nature of data, the good stuff comes in small packets sometimes, and you have to learn how to digest them and make them useful.
Well, why do you like working with data, Philip?
Oh, it's fun. I mean, it's kind of an interesting scaling challenge. I mean, there's always something new in it. There's so many different ways that people express their information, the variety of formats, the different subtle semantic differences between how one data supplier for a country might supply the information. You guys were talking about Switzerland in a previous podcast, and Switzerland, there are multiple different suppliers that you can get for Switzerland. They have different ways of organizing the area hierarchies in it, and being able to deal with those differences, being able to standardize things and process it. It's an interesting scaling challenge, and always being looking at how to adapt and make the process more efficient and more consistent. It's kind of nerdy fun.
Well, I mean, from one data to the next, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about the projects that you're working on here.
Some of the projects I'm working on right now, there's a variety of things associated with the Global Address Project. AI has been opening up a lot of new cool stuff for us. So we're taking advantage of that to try to improve some of our QA processes. We've got groups inside of my team here who are working on AI agents to do data scanning, data analysis. And so that's one of the interesting projects. Again, we're also working on doing unification of our express entry and our global address product. So that's kind of a fun and interesting thing, getting the shared data resources for the two of them. And that's opening up new possibilities for how we search and match, all that stuff. So again, lots of nerdy fun on those projects.
Well, okay, so apparently his team's working on all these AI agents. I mean, should we be afraid about our jobs, Philip? I mean, like what does it take to be an address provider? And do these AI agents can they do that?
Well, they can do a part of it. I mean, like AI agents are good with general knowledge, so they can start to do things to format and structure data to start with. But ultimately, everything sort of turns on context. You take a look at, what does 100 N Street mean? Like in Duluth, it might be N, the letter, and in St. Petersburg, Florida, it might be an abbreviation for North. And in some other part of Oklahoma, it might not be a valid address at all. So like there's a whole bunch of really context dependent stuff that comes in, and AI is really good at being able to handle general patterns and structure information and help with that kind of stuff. But when you have to get down to nitty gritty, very precise, very specific context, it's an area where it doesn't quite get there. And so AI opens up some really exciting possibilities for making the data quality better, being able to do deeper checks, deeper analysis, help get corner cases that are hard to get. So it kind of helps us do our job, but ultimately you need the deep levels of data, the ability to search it, the ability to do the kinds of matching things that can be done incredibly efficiently in a programmatic environment, but in a very, very expensive and unreliable way if you're using AI and large language models. So again, it's a marriage of the two. I think it's the intersection of the two, really solid software, really solid data in the background, and the ability to apply additional compute and analysis through the AI stuff it's a very exciting time to be working on this stuff.
So it sounds like we're still safe for now.
Yeah.
Human intelligence is still reliable enough for us right now.
Not in my lifetime. Well, I hope there's advancement, but I mean, so I think Philip was talking about AI good with general data, general knowledge and stuff.
Yeah.
But it requires, what did he say, specific, deep research into certain contextual dependencies for global addresses. So in your experience, Philip, what are these challenges that you faced?
Well, so I think the biggest part of it is, when we first started looking at it, I came in, I grew up in the US. I've got a US centric view of the world. And then starting to look at, okay, how do they do addresses in Great Britain? How do they do them in France? How do they do them in India? How do they do them in Japan? How do they do them in China? Like all these different contexts have a bunch of rules that grew up around the country's culture. So Great Britain has a lot of ways of doing addresses that nobody else on the planet that doesn't come from British history doesn't do it. And you've got different parts of the globe where different concepts, like in India, there's a lot of reference-based addresses, across from the Bank of New Delhi, or things like that are legitimate references in those places. And, just all these different contexts where you have to understand the rules. Some of them have really great resources. Royal Mail's great because it has very detailed, authoritative information. But there are other parts of the country, other parts of the globe that just don't have that same information. So we had to dig in deep and build information about every single country on the globe to get it right. I mean, what looks right in Great Britain doesn't necessarily look right in France, and doesn't necessarily look right in Belgium and whatnot. So, a lot of research, a lot of thinking, creating custom configurations and customizations so that you don't do a French address with a British accent and vice versa.
Oh, they wouldn't like that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for doing all this back research. I mean, it seems like that must have taken a lot of time, a lot of effort, but I think it's fruitful because now you're able to take all this data and do something with it.
Yeah, no, we have thousands of hours of collective effort put into just the research on the countries themselves. And then on top of that, there's, getting all the configurations tweaked up for specific countries. I mean, there's an awful lot of detail work, and everything has to be right. Or, it doesn't seem like you're working on addresses for that country. It's somebody else's addresses that are being jammed into their addresses being jammed into the shape for somebody else's.
So how many countries do we say we support? I mean, we support all of them, but so how many different formats are there out there?
Well, the number of formats is different than the number of countries. You have things that came from different colonial pasts, the French colonial and the British colonial, et cetera. So there are a variety of different formats for it. There's 240 some ish countries. I'm not going to get into the exact number because I don't want the political blowback from.
Plus or minus, right? Plus or minus.
Whose map you're using for it on a given day, but probably about 100 different distinct addressing formats, sets of rules, special cases for how you do apartments, how you do layouts. There's some really interesting ways of doing it. I mean, I love Japan's addressing system because it's more sort of nested areas as opposed to streets, unlike a lot of the rest of the world does it. So, very interesting, different contexts, and you kind of have to have a level of mastery in each and every one if you're going.
Well, Philip, let me ask you a question here. You have so much experience, 100 different formats across 200 something plus countries. What's one that's stuck with you? What's one that was a challenge, or even if it's not a challenge, it was just so interesting that's been on your mind and that you're very proud of understanding now?
Yeah, Japan was one of the ones that was a real challenge because it has an addressing system that's very different than most of the rest of the globe has, and there's a lot of numeric components to it. So from a nerdy parse the address, match the address perspective, a lot of their addresses include multiple different numbers, and so you have to make sure you're placing those numbers correctly. And the address formats change based on what language you're using. So if you're doing katakana, hiragana, if you're doing Romaji, the order of the different components of the address is different. And so the symbol system or the lettering system that you're using for it is all dependent. And I guess it's all those different aspects of special, unique ways of laying things out and getting them right, dealing with the various characters and having to match in a continuous text country, one where they don't put spaces between the different words, all sorts of different challenges. So that was one of the most fun and challenging countries to do.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm bilingual, maybe trilingual. I know English, I know Vietnamese, and I've took some Spanish. Mm-hmm. But hearing Philip and all your work, I mean, you must be a polyglot. I mean, do you speak all the languages now?
No, I can recognize the word for street in about 60 different languages, but
that's a start.
But you get used to it. I mean, you've kind of figured out. I a couple years of French in high school, a couple years of German in college, enough to get a little bit of a smattering of the European stuff, and enough math to be able to recognize the Greek symbols. But Cyrillic and all the variety of different Asian scripts that are out there. You just have to learn to get used to it. Where you need language specialists to bring them in, and when you have you just learn to recognize the patterns and use the reference data. It's a fun and interesting challenge. I mean, you kind of get to the point where you just get used to it.
Now, has AI changed that for you? You mentioned language specialists. You still depend on language specialists?
Now that we've got the full globe set up, we don't depend on them as much. Early on, we did a little bit more. But it's really handy sometimes to see the translations of script it's not a script that I read. I mean, I don't read Thai script myself. And so seeing translations or transliterations of it makes it a little bit easier. So we do rely on it a little bit for some of those translation pieces. From time to time, it's useful.
That's an interesting topic that you just brought up, Philip. Transliterations and synonyms, right? So how does that play into global addresses, and why is that important for your engine, for example?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really critical piece of getting it right. That the example that I gave before for the 100N Street, in people abbreviate things. Sometimes it's north spelled out, sometimes it's NO, sometimes it's just a letter N. And sometimes that's someone's initial, it could be an entirely different thing. So to be able to handle the variations on the ways people express the word for street, is it abbreviated, is it attached to the main word? You have to have all these different various synonyms. And like there are places in Seattle where I'm based where we've got a street that's called Highway 99, it's called Aurora. And we have to be able to accept either of those. And so the ability to have different ways of naming, different abbreviation styles. In particular, there's a lot of countries where they name things after military figures, Brigadier General so-and-so or whatever. And in those cases, that often gets abbreviated and lots of different variations of abbreviations. So being able to handle lots and lots of different forms of those synonyms are absolutely critical for being able to handle and understand what someone intended and not just say, oh, can't match it because it's just not the official form of the address.
Right. Yeah.
Hey, besides your AI initiatives and what you're currently using AI for, have you seen any other cool AI projects in this space, or just any other projects you find interesting nowadays?
I think the opportunities for LLMs are really interesting. I have a family member who's like super into genealogy, and the trees she builds for her family are just so absurdly large that there's just no way to present them conveniently and showing them to other family members. So, as an example project, she and I sat together and we used a ChatGPT, or actually no, it was Claude, to create a skill to go and make a tree that's centric on one person. So it just builds out a little bow tie tree for someone, and a little family description for all it. So taking this large tree from all this very complex graph of family relations and being able to do customized versions for people, like it's things like that are becoming possible that really kind of make me excited about the possibility for AI. Things that were hard that are now suddenly possible.
Right. Yeah. Gotta use it when you can, or while you can, or with what you can.
Yes.
All
Yes.
of the above. Just going back real quick as, just being an address provider, right? Is there anything else you want to touch on in terms of, what it takes to be one? Anything you want to make, touch on anything specific?
Yeah, no, I think I was talking to someone again a while ago about that same question you asked me about is AI coming for the address industry? And I think the issue is that it's not necessarily about the individual piece of software. It's as much about the ecosystem. Being able to do this all really well involves not just an application or a database. It's dozens and dozens and dozens of databases, and it's an ecosystem to allow this information to all flow through it and get standardized properly, and having matching systems and quality systems involved in it. So, when we first started out on the project, it was about building an ecosystem. And that was obvious from the very beginning that with 240 some odd different contexts and all this data that was going to have to flow through the system and being able to tweak the matching rules for one country as opposed to another, so many different parts of it. Just like that, I think that whole ecosystem and the quality control measures and making sure that you always have the best data from the best suppliers I think that's really critical to making sure that you're doing a good job on it. And that requires a really dedicated effort. It's not going to happen from, just getting lucky or getting a good piece of software or one good database. It really is about having that whole ecosystem and caring for the ecosystem as a whole.
Hey, Philip. We might have encountered a little lag or some issue with the connection just now. And so just for our listeners, in case that happened, it happened maybe just covering up the last minute. Can you just give us a quick synopsis of what you were just talking about?
Sure. I guess what I was talking about was the ecosystem that goes into managing and building an address verification service. That whole set of tools that you need dozens of different databases, you need processes to manage and understand and configure for specific contexts. Each of the different countries has its own context. So being able to do that and being able to keep the quality very high and all the data flowing together, current and accurate, it requires a systems approach to the whole thing. It's not something that can just be done with a single piece of software or a single database. It really is about getting the whole ecosystem working and functioning smoothly.
Yeah.
So I like how Philip described it. I'm thinking about an old proverb. I think it goes, if the only tool you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So everyone's thinking, oh, AI, that's the hammer.
Right.
And so AI is going to take over everything. That's the nails. But what Philip's saying is what I agree to also is the ecosystem, right? It's AI to augment, to supplement, to aid.
Right.
We still have our actual intelligence, our human intelligence.
For now, but yeah.
Well, some of us do.
Some of us.
I think we actually have to push that. I mean, the whole human in the loop is really important on this stuff. AI just doesn't have enough context to get this right. It can help. It can get you 80% there. It's good for breaking into it, but really you need a hands-on touch with people who understand the context very deeply. I think that's one of the things we're learning about AI adoption right now, is that to the extent that you have humans who are in context, understanding what's happening, it really creates an opportunity for you to get the best and the most out of it. If you just, abdicate your responsibility to keep the humans in there and understanding what's happening, you end up with a very beautiful mess.
What'd you say? A very beautiful mess?
Go and write software all day long, but it's just going to be the wrong stuff.
Yeah.
So with this ecosystem talk and everything, how are you continuing to innovate and improve?
Yeah, no, I think that innovation is a critical piece of it. Again, looking for ways to make the data tighter, improving the matching, the quality of the matching. One of the things that you have to do in this is there's so many different ways that people put in the data. On my good days, they're very creative. On the others, I'm frustrated by it. But, there's a lot of imagination that comes in and how people will format addresses that they give to us to validate. And so, it's a process of how do you capture the user's intent? And you can do that as an iterative process. You start out, you get the most obvious, the most close to correct ones, and you can get those together really quickly. But then getting more and more of the corner cases, catching those things where it's a misspelling or something's a little bit off. There's always opportunities to improve. And so looking at those, how do we take advantage of it? How can we use the tools that are available to us now that weren't available a decade ago to do better analysis, understand the character of the data we're trying to validate and correct in better ways. So there's always an opportunity to really improve the quality and the speed and the accuracy of what we're doing.
Always be improving.
Always be improving.
ABI. I came up with that.
You can do acronyms too, huh? Well, Philip, it was very good talking with you. We thank you for your 17 plus years of service and the claps for Phillips. The domain knowledge that you bring and you continue to improve with AI in our grand Melissa ecosystem, and really contributing to the world. With global addresses, we're all making. He's making a big contribution.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. This has been really fun. I really appreciate you inviting me to join you.
Is there anything you wanted to talk about, Philip? Anything else?
No, I just think it's been a fun adventure, and I think there's a lot left to do and expand, and I'm really looking forward to the future.
All right. Well, we're looking forward to what you'll do in the future too, Philip. All right. Well, thank you again. It was great having Philip on board to hear about his contribution and his work and where he came from and everything. So we thank him for his time. And hey, if you like this type of content, we would love to see you again. So make sure you hit that like and subscribe button so we can reach more viewers like you.
We'd love to hear from you. So email us at podcast@melissa.com. Join us, connect with us on LinkedIn, leave a comment below. And if you'd like to hear more from Philip Ljubicich, just let us know and we will definitely get him back on, and we'll talk more about whatever topics you'd like to hear more about.
All right. Well, thank you. Until next time.
Stay data curious.